All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Wombo Combo Podcast, a Dota 2 competitive podcast, of course, as I'm BreakyCPK and joined by BSJ, here to talk about some competitive Dota, and we definitely have plenty to talk about. Speaking of Dota 2, we got the Major. The Major, of course, beginning over the weekend, going to give our takes and thoughts and really just go over the results there as far as how things are shaping up so far as we enter the playoffs. But before we get into that too much, BSJ, how you doing, man?
Okay, I'm here. Okay.
We saw you moving around.
I blame her for that. Apparently she uses push to talk. I never use that stuff. Okay. Well, I lost 6 games in a row today of pubs, but I am feeling like it's going to be better. It's going to get better. So that was my whole, shoot to the sky, up in the air. I'm excited to, stop losing games eventually. But other than that, I'm good, man. I'm good. So
awesome. Well, that's it. Yeah, it'll get better. You're going to play some more tonight, taking the break right here. And then
exactly. This will serve as a nice little breather that I so desperately need from the agony. I was queuing a bunch of EU games, okay, because I'm in New York right now, so I have the rare privilege of being able to do that. And I didn't realize I was queuing EU and US East for one game. And I found a US East game, and I had a tiny tossing me into the Slark and killing me. That was my one North American game today. So
Tiny Airlines, baby.
Yeah, that's just America for you. I had 6 games on EU. All of them, even though I lost, or even though I only won one of them, were all like good games. And then the one game I played in A, I had a guy tossing me into the opponent. So, it just speaks heaps and bounds of the NA Dota experience. But we can go ahead and proceed to talk about things people probably actually care about here.
That's fair enough right here. No, definitely plenty of fan base, of course, coming over as you're concluding your stream for now, sending them over. So shout out to the BSJ fans, plenty tuning in right now. But yeah, enough about you, damn it. We got these top tier teams to talk about here in this major, and some interesting results to say the least. Definitely a couple of storylines that's worth going over. Of course, it kicked off on Saturday, as we mentioned. The group stages have now concluded over the 2-day period, and tomorrow, as we're recording this podcast, at least, is the playoffs. The playoffs kick off. All 16 teams are still alive. It's just now you have the 8 teams in the lower bracket going to be playing a best of 1 to kick it off, and of course the 8 in the upper bracket will be going through with the best out of 3. But one big storyline right off the bat was, on the positive side at least, Na'Vi. Apparently Na'Vi is back, I guess. Yeah, that's what everyone says, when this team happens to do well. Poggers indeed. 2-1 over EG, and then 2-0 over Team Liquid, and especially, I at least caught a bit of the Liquid series. I mean, they looked good against Liquid, so Na'Vi, what's your take on this team all of a sudden coming up and representing CIS?
I mean, that's pretty shocking to me. I don't think it's that crazy that they beat Liquid, but the fact that they clean sweep the group, obviously they 2-1 EG, but that's a very impressive group to come out on top of. So overall, they were definitely my biggest surprise coming out of the group stage, and I look forward to seeing if they can translate that. Are they going to be like the J Storm of last major, where they maybe get 6th and burn out, or are they going to be contenders? And I'm looking forward to seeing either way, because I think EG is one of my favorites for the entire tournament, at least the top 3, 4-ish. So to beat them like that is pretty impressive.
Yeah, not to be bittersweet on this result, but again, it is just the group stages, and sure, now they're in the winner side of things, but all that really does in the end, when you think about it, it makes it a point that you're not going to at least be 13th through 16th place. So, they still could have ultimately I don't know if I call it even a disappointing finish, but a lower tier finish, as maybe a lot of people would have expected. But yeah, at least in the group stages to start things off here, Na'Vi certainly plenty of momentum to build off of. And then it does portray the storyline, I suppose, to get into of not only EG, but especially Team Liquid. And obviously, if you look at Group D, it was Na'Vi, EG, Liquid, and Pain Gaming. Yeah, myself, and I assume many would agree, Evil Geniuses and Liquid were the two that we would have expected to come out in the winner side there. But both, again, losing to Na'Vi, ultimately EG then defeating Liquid in a pretty awesome series, 2-1, to advance onto the winners as well. So Liquid going to the lower side. But it kind of takes you to was this more disappointment on the other side of it from Liquid and even EG to an extent? Speaking for Liquid personally, I think it was. They did not necessarily play up to we know the level that they can, and I even tweeted out about this, especially in the EG series, that Game 3, they actually had a lead against EG, and they just made a couple of very crucial mistakes, picking a fight when they really shouldn't have, going in after Mickey, their carry, in that case, got caught on Faceless Void, and then trying to make a fight happen. He didn't buy back. It was very awkward, and had a 10,000 net worth lead at the point or something like that, and then eventually just threw that all away. 10 minutes later, EG's pushing the throne, or the Ancient, and winning the game. So these mistakes just continue to pop up at the prime times for a team like Team Liquid, but I guess that's the other perspective, though. I mean, I don't know about your thoughts on that between EG and Liquid. Was it more disappointment from them here in this group?
I mean, I'm definitely disappointed with them just because I kind of believed what they told me back in Singapore, that they had kind of taken the holidays off and that they were going to come back strong for the major. So obviously getting off to a rough start. But I also think that they're quite capable of cleaning it up. So I'm not necessarily as concerned about them as I could be about other teams. But like Virtus Pro, for instance, that's their opponent in the first round of the lower bracket.
Yep.
I would be shocked if they lost that game. Like Virtus Pro just straight up went 0-4 in their group stage, got 2-0'd by Reality Rift, who, got third place in the SEA quals, or second place maybe.
They did get second, but still.
Yeah, but it's like they obviously just a team nobody's really heard of prior to this event, and you're getting 2-0'd on the side of VP, just going 0-4 in the group stage. I'm expecting Liquid to win that game, and then it's pretty much like they got to the top bracket and then lost to Secret, something like that. Same net results. So I'm hoping for these guys, and I'm expecting that they'll get maybe top 8. They'll win against Virtus Pro and then take down their next opponent. That's kind of where I think they're at. But if they end up falling out in the bottom 8, I'm thoroughly going to be disappointed with them for their result in this major. So we'll just have to see how they take it going into the playoffs.
Yeah, again, starts tomorrow. Those best of ones are going to be happening tomorrow, so we'll know very quickly here. Again, even looking at EG, though, like I was saying, EG was a throw away of a fight from Team Liquid to them being in the lower bracket themselves. That could very easily be EG versus VP in the best of one lower bracket. So I guess that's something else to think about here is like, whoa, we almost had EG going to the lower bracket best of one series, and this is a team that we have high expectations for every single event. We've been stressing it throughout the season already. Another continuation of when are they finally going to win a major event, especially. They're still in it, and obviously they're even on the winner's side now. They get matched up against Nigma, who's coming out first from Group A, but concerns are definitely still there for EG. Yes, there's still a run to come, but I don't know. Something about this team, it really just doesn't seem to be connecting right now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. EG is always so weird. How can you have these players that are so fucking good and yet just aren't the best? Like in terms of just individual talent, like the best one of the best, if not the best mid laners from the SEA region. You have Arteezy, who's the best carry from the NA region. Debatably, I guess now that Sumail's moved to carry. And then you have, Fly, who's won majors, one of the best captains in the world. Crit, who's insanely strong at the 4. Obviously, Ramsey's a bit new at the 3, man, but I don't get it how this team can't just be clean sweeping people. And I think it really does show the lack or the importance of team cohesion as well as teamwork in Dota, just because individual skill is just not good enough. And I mean, this looks like a scary matchup for them. I mean, Team Nigma is kind of riding the wave that IG rode in the first minor major cycle, where they win the minor and then come out of the group stage in the winner bracket. And even though I think Team Nigma's group was overall weaker, only having to beat TNC and then Fnatic, I think Fnatic's kind of proven that they're not as good as people thought they were originally, even though they are still a group of good players. And then TNC obviously was seeded number 1 in the tournament just because of DPC points this season's thus far. And as you've mentioned, you were kind of expecting them to not perform all that well. And we're kind of seeing that already. They're dropping. They got last in their group, so that's looking rough for them. Only taking one game the entire group stage, going 1-2 against Nigma, taking the first game and then losing 2 games more, and then losing 2 games to Aster. I think when it comes to disappointments, it's the teams that just look like they had no glimpse of hope for these teams. And TNC looked real rough in the group stage. And if I need to segue to my boys, my dark horse that I had as a potential team that I define as like being insanely good potentially, and that's Chaos. I said they're a dark horse for a reason, but they just dropped 0-2 to Beast Coast and 0-2 to Vici. Obviously, Vici is quite a good opponent. I would say Chaos's group was a pretty tough one, all things considered. But going 0-4 like that is a rough one. And in terms of their first opponent in the lower stage, in the group stage, the best of ones, they have Team Aster, who had pretty much a terrible performance against Fnatic. They went 0-4, but then they 2-0 TNC. So don't really know what to think about who I like for that series, because TNC clearly is not looking good. So does 2-0ing them really mean that much? Kind of all over the place with what I'm talking about, but these are all kind of falling into place with the people that have something to prove this tournament are all stuck in these best of ones. So
it feels like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah, going back to your TNC point, I was going to bring that up as well. It's just this is a team that they're going to have to play against their brethrens in Reality Rift, and best of ones. Again, we know anything can obviously happen. I know that's a cliche thing to say, but it stands, especially with how chaotic the patch to an extent is right now, and people still seem to be really figuring out. And there is their randomness side of it as well with the neutral items and everything too. So certainly keeping that in mind, but. It is possible that, teams like Chaos, TNC, Liquid could all be out in 13th through 16th place. I mean, that is a realistic possibility with how things have shaped up right now. So certainly disappointment is afoot for at least a couple of these teams, maybe one, but we'll see who that ends up being. But back to positive, I mean, you do have the expected, of course. You got Secret, you got Vici Gaming, you mentioned Nigma, you mentioned IG, all looking pretty strong here in this event, and as we did expect in the winner side of things when it comes down to how the brackets have been made. So speaking on that topic, actually, the first round, I've already hinted at a couple of the matchups. Is there any that really stand out to you that you're super excited to see? More so on the winner side. I mean, lower side, sure, I guess too. But winner side, I mean, we got some great matches. Just to go over them, you got Nigma versus EG, IG versus Vici Gaming, Secret versus Fnatic, and then Na'Vi versus Alliance. The Na'Vi Alliance series we get to see once again. It really is, man. It's kind of cool how that works.
It's so funny how that's like that's the series that everyone always talks about, Na'Vi Alliance, even though those teams are literally all different players.
They change so much.
I mean, the two I'm most looking for, I mean, I hate to say it, I think the lamest one is the Team Secret versus Fnatic series. I kind of expect that to be pretty one-sided. But the other three, I'm very excited about. I think the EG Nigma series will be hype. I think the Chinese series will be like really hype as well. Like, I think those are two of the best teams in the world, IG, VG, and then obviously the Na'Vi Alliance. Like, that's just a storyline in of itself. So it's kind of funny, you never know how the tournament organizers do it in terms of how the groups go A, B, C, D, meaning like, do they make it so it's possible for Na'Vi to play Alliance? Like, was that intentional in terms of who's in A? Like, they do seed the groups, right? But like, what group is specifically A, B, C, and D is what I'm referring to. It's kind of funny to me how it works out, but no, man, I if I had to choose one though, it would probably be the Nigma EG series. I think like it's either the IG Vici is like an exciting series and all, but I know both those teams are really good. So with Nigma EG, I think both of these teams have insanely high potential, but haven't proven it yet. So like haven't met what I think even they expect of themselves in terms of potential. Yes, they look really good. Yes, their rosters are insanely strong. They both place very highly at TI, but what do you have to show me this season? And I think this bracket, this like the winner of that series could potentially, take the series off of IG Vici, which puts them in top 3.
Yeah.
But the loser, I think, is quite capable of also facing a pretty difficult opponent in the lower bracket. So.
Yeah. Kind of building off what you said there. EG is, I go back to, they were very close to even being in the lower bracket, and it was very possible. So they're in the winner's side. They still, we knew that going into this event, and especially more so now, how their group stages went. They have so much to continue to prove. And it is not against an easy opponent, as it never tends to be in these majors, of course. So that to me easily is the most intriguing one. Not to agree, but it just is. Frankly, I am noticing though, it's interesting how he has these. You talk about how they maybe set it up potentially to have some of these matchups here. There's several that are actually inter-region matchups. You got Invictus Gaming versus Vici, of course, from China. Beast Coast versus Pain going at it there in the lower bracket, and then we mentioned Reality Rift versus TNC as well down there. Southeast Asian teams going at it. So it's funny how that. Worked out that way, I guess, in the end. The one that really sounded Liquid versus Virtus Pro, man. If this was 1 year ago, down in the lower bracket, it's like, wait, what is happening? A little more understandable now, of course, as things have definitely changed. But the ever-evolving scene that is Dota 2 in the rosters, of course. So all 16 teams are still in it, though. Anything can definitely still happen. And before we give our predictions, ultimately, I did want to take a look at the meta as far as the strategies and the heroes that we did get to see throughout. Always intriguing, especially after a bigger patch. And right off the bat, man, Lich was the most picked hero and exactly a 50% win percentage. Really interesting how that worked out. But 24 matches played, a 12-12 record. Next in line was Rubik at 20, and then Disruptor at 17, and it goes down from there. But that helps give you an idea. Lich was by far the most picked hero at this event, of course, in that support role. And it follows with the support, and then Slark being the first of the cores, really, that pops up there as far as the more picked. But your thoughts on the more picked heroes, at least.
Not too surprising. I think Glitch has proven to be just a really strong laning support, and it's really hard to argue banning the hero, I think. He doesn't do one thing in particularly amazing. He does a little bit of everything, a little bit defensive, a little bit aggressive, has a decent stun in terms of the channel. He's just an all-around decent hero. What I mean by decent is he doesn't have any major weaknesses, and he doesn't have amazing strengths by any means. And so it's like very reliable laner, but do you really ban it? Like, because the other team might pick it first round? Not really. I think Earthshaker kind of surprises me, the fact that he's that high up in terms of picks. But aside from him, this is pretty much everything I'm expecting. There's really no other hero, to be honest with you, that surprises me in the amount of picks. Maybe Gyro, like 7 times, might be more than I expected. Wouldn't be too surprised of a lot of those with IO. I just realized Shadow Fiend is 0-7.
I was gonna bring that up if you didn't.
That is fascinating. I feel like that hero is really powerful every time I play with or against it in pubs. So maybe it's been figured out. Maybe it's been picked by a lot of the weaker teams, just so the stats are a bit skewed. But 0-7 is pretty alarming. Arc Warden's 4-0. That's also a very surprising statistic. Nightstalker's 3-0. There's some of these heroes that, that's not a large sample size, but clearly they have a niche in the meta. I think Nightstalker is specifically good against like the Abaddons and Omnis because you can't dispel his silence. And then Arc Warden, I think, has been picked mainly against like Drow lineups and stuff. So it's nice to see that people are beginning to pick out of meta heroes because they deal well with certain strategies in the meta. So I feel like that part of the meta is finally developing. And if people start to have strategies be countered by heroes like Nightstalker and Arc Warden, who are kind of niche but very powerful in that situation, you might have to reconsider the powerful heroes, whether or not they're still worth first rounding or, building an entire strategy around. So that I look forward to seeing the meta develop even more so in the playoffs. I'm only sad because I haven't been able to watch more than a third of the games just because they're all at freaking 4 a.m., 5 a.m. But every time I wake up in the morning, I have turned on the stream and the games have been pretty entertaining. Yeah. So I'm glad to see the quality of Dota for this major is, to say the least, just exciting to watch. I like to watch it. So Dota can sometimes be like, I think the last major everyone was kind of bored with the meta and kind of just had lost a lot of momentum in terms of a spectator sport, but I think it's kind of back with this major, so it's nice to see.
Yeah, new patch helps with that. But going back to that point too, I remember seeing a thing about it and looking back here too. The 4 opening matches all were 2-1 series, all going the distance as far as the series win. Obviously, you had some great ones there. EG versus Na'Vi, we know what happened there. Secret versus Vici. Yeah, it started off with a bang certainly, and as we've talked about it's had some great results throughout, and now some awesome matchups in terms of the teams that are going at it here into the playoffs that start Tuesday. So yeah, really is proven to be a great event. Dream League definitely bringing their production as well, and excited to see that continue to advance as the event takes off here. So yeah, meta stuff again. That was really intriguing to me. Lich seeing him at the top there, but the one other point, or the one other thing I wanted to bring up before moving on from it is Ursa. Ursa was actually not seen at all. It was only banned once even, and just not picked at all. I feel like this is a hero. Maybe this is more pub-based analysis, but we see this hero a lot, and I think we did see it a fair amount at the minor, I even want to say, but not being picked up here at the major at all.
It was picked some. To be honest, I think they just gave him the nerf bat a little too hard. He's been his base movement speed, base armor, base or mana cost on his Q, cooldown on his Q, cooldown on his ultimate. All of it just kind of adds up eventually, and I think right now his laning stage is just too weak to validate. Like, he's just a snowballing hero. If he has a good lane, he takes over the game. If he doesn't have a good lane, he kind of just feels underwhelming. And I think right now, even against like Timber Saws and stuff, he doesn't really win. Here, like matchups and like hero counters that he's supposed to be picked into, he just doesn't cut it anymore, I think, is what's happening. So not too surprising to me personally. Every time I see it in pubs, it just looks rough, at least in the higher tiers. So I think right now there's just better heroes. And I also think you have to strongly consider heroes like PL causing a lot of issues for Ursa. And also OD being popular, Slark being popular, even like Dooms being popular, Puck. Like, all these heroes are very annoying for Ursa to deal with. The ones that either have continuous disables, burst damage with silences, or the ability to like kite him around is just really annoying for Ursa to deal with. Even Naga Siren in the meta, who's been picked more than PL, surprisingly. But very similar heroes in regards to what they offer to the laning stage, and then obviously the item builds. In terms of playstyle, a bit different, but item builds are very similar. So that doesn't surprise me too much, the Ursa, but I have been getting a lot of questions about that in my stream. So it's definitely, I think it's just the nerfs are too much to make his momentum ever really come to fruition, I think is how I would describe Ursa right now.
All right, fair enough. So again, the playoffs kicking off tomorrow. Perhaps room to see more of these heroes that we're not seeing, but overall a fair amount were definitely picked up. Looks like around 80 to 90 or so. Okay, now the ultimate questions here as far as our predictions, as of course into this podcast, and the event resumes tomorrow, goes into the weekend, and we'll see who the eventual winner is. But it's prediction time. Rather than just say flat out who's going to win, we're top 3 at least. If you want to really break it down, feel free. But top 3 teams. Now that we've seen them all in the group stages going, we know the playoff matchup so far. Who do we like for the top 3 teams that we're going to be seeing? You're right.
I think my bracket placing kind of has to affect things. So initially, I think I put IG Vici potentially both in top 3, but the fact that they're playing each other first round, I think really does dictate whether or not, like, that does affect that pretty drastically. I'm going to go with Nigma, Secret, and Vici. And I think IG will get either 6th or 4th. Because I think Vici will take the upper bracket, and then IG is going to drop to somebody. So that's who I'll go with.
I'm sticking with Vici absolutely as well in terms of going all the way. And I did predict them at our last week's show as far as which team would win it all. So I have no reason to believe differently here necessarily, despite coming to second on their group. Again, it was against Team Secret. But yeah, with that in mind, I think Vici, Secret are the obvious two off the bat. And I'm sitting here like I'm looking at the lower side. Do I see a team maybe making a run to that lower side? No, I don't.
Well, my question I was going to be, like, to go off what you just said, because you kind of spoiled my surprise question for you, is between the two of us, who do you think is going to go the farthest out of the lower bracket? Because I agree with you that none of them really have the, Team Liquid TI9, run to the finals potential. So at this point, who do we think is going to get the farthest? What do you think?
Man, I mean, I look at this and despite what I've said about them and not necessarily expecting them to do very well again, looking at these matchups and the potential, I almost want to say TNC. I do, as far as I have higher expectations than them finishing, dead last, let alone in even the 12th place spot or so. So getting a potentially top 8 for TNC is certainly a realistic option. So I'm going to go with TNC if I had to choose a team, funny enough.
Well, I'm going to double or nothing my debt here that I've already lost here. I'm going to go with Chaos. I gotta, because they're going to make the comeback that they need to do, and I'm going to ride or die on my NA boys because most likely die, apparently, according to their group stage. But I don't think Team Master's all that great, and I think Chaos is way better than they looked in the group stage, so I hope that they can make the recovery that they need. But I genuinely believe this might be one of the weakest lower brackets I've seen in a while in regards to, I just think not a single team here has a chance to actually take it all. And usually there's like one or two teams where you say EG got bumped down to the losers bracket because of what happened. There's usually one or two teams like that where you're like, okay, they could make a seriously deep run in this tournament. Sure. And I don't think I think it's quite possible that the 4 teams that win the best of ones then all lose the best of 3 next. Like, I think that it could just be the 8 teams from the upper bracket remaining. But that it almost seems that drastic to me. I just think, like, I don't think IG Vici is going to lose. I don't think Nigma or EG is going to lose. Meaning once they drop to the lower bracket, whatever team does. Maybe Fnatic is vulnerable of that happening, and maybe Na'Vi if they looked better in the group stage than they actually are. But all these teams in the upper bracket looked very solid, and there seems to be a lot missing with most of the teams in the lower bracket. So it might be one of the most polarized separations between the upper and lower bracket caliber that I've seen in a while. So I'm going to be looking out for any major upsets, but as of right now, I don't really believe in any of them. Kind of on the same page with you there.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. It just means, especially when we start getting down to it, top 8, etc., it's going to be that much better potentially as far as the play goes. But yeah, not likely to have a Cinderella story here in this event. But hey, we've seen crazy things before, right? So who knows what can happen in the end here at this major. But yeah, again, the best of ones tomorrow. Looking forward to it and seeing how things play out here for the Dream League Major, our second major of the season, of course. Okay, I think that previews / recaps the major quite a bit right there. So for those that maybe didn't get to check out everything or looking to get some insights, hopefully enjoying that. Not much else to go over outside of that, of course, going on as typical. But at the same time, there was a couple bits of information that came out today, in fact, as we were preparing for the show. I think that's necessary here as boy Gunnar. No longer a part of NiP. There was a tweet out today, article, post, whatever, from Ninjas in Pajamas suggesting that Gunnar removed from the team wasn't working out. Well, the usual right there as far as what is said. But in the end, they're parted ways. So Gunnar no longer a part of NiP. It feels like we both definitely saw, at least, again, I knew, I had a good feeling that something was going to happen. I can't sit here and say I expected this 100%, but NiP, seems like the beginning of definitely some changes happening with this team.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I had a little bit of change of heart when I talked to Gunnar on the way back on the flight, but the day they got knocked out and I watched their games, like the day they lost their second series of the minor, I'm like, I'm pretty sure Gunnar's getting kicked. Like, I hate to say it, but if you ask anybody about their experience with underwhelming carry performances, I can definitely identify them, and his was definitely just not up to snuff. And when you get last place in a minor with a team like PPD and Universe, they're just not going to be okay with that. Like, I could not fathom them being complacent and content with the lineup that they currently have. That's just like last year, NiP, and the year before, Optic was never like the best team, but they never once got last in a minor, right? Like that didn't happen. So definitely not surprised in the slightest that NiP made a change. And if you had asked me, maybe I mentioned it on this podcast specifically, I thought it was Gunnar. So
Okay.
That I was hoping for his sake that it wasn't going to happen, because it's rough that he just switched roles and give him some time to settle. But the season's already 2/5 over, so you can't take too long. You only got so much time before TI and settling your roster and pulling it all together, sadly.
Yeah, that to me, again, I don't know 100%, but even just going off some information that we have heard, it's, how much were they really preparing for this event? And so, and as you pointed out too, with him specifically having to go from position 2 to 1 before the event, not that, that was a surprise. It's not like you found that out at the event itself. You knew going in, sure, but it's one of these cases of, there's a lot of pressure, especially on a player like Gunnar, he's newer to the competitive scene, that top tier in general. He's playing with these big dog TI winners, Universe, PPD is mentioned. No doubt it's not easy. Not to make excuses here, but you do got to wonder, is PPD specifically, because he's a captain after all, is he going to be searching for somebody more proven, more experience that could just come in and not have to worry about, he did it last season with CCNC, and that kind of worked out. Obviously, he's doing fairly well for himself, but now he's doing it this year with Gunnar. It seems like maybe, especially with already halfway through the season to an extent, they're just going to look for that experience over trying to find something, a diamond in the rough, I guess you could say. And there's a couple of names that do come to mind, right? we always go back to Samael. We don't know 100% what that situation is, but you got to think he's at least a candidate. And dare I say Mason? Is Mason coming back to competitive Dota? I mean, I
have a hard time believing PPD would play with Mason. I don't think they hate each other or anything. I just don't. I've never seen them be like friends. So maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe I had a hard time believing that, but I'm curious. Like they say, they're holding tryouts. I can't imagine they would say that unless if they actually had ideal candidate, like if they actually had somebody they thought was going to be for sure who it is. So I have no idea what they're going to do. I think Sumail, if he's not on a team now, like after this cycle, then clearly there's contract issues and more so to that with his previous engagement with EG. But I would love to see him on this team. Obviously throwback to TI5. Will that actually happen? Seems a bit skeptical to me. I'm under the impression that him and PPD weren't on the best of terms, but at the end of the day, it is professional Dota, and much more matters to win than it does to be best friends with your teammates, unless you're OG, where they're all just happy and friends and such.
And they still win. Yeah, it's crazy. It's going to continue to be pretty interesting there to see how that develops. And dare I say, not to put the rumor mill out there, but you also have to think about the possibility of poaching, right? And poaching from other teams. And a team like J-Storm, who just had a very poor performance going into this cycle. Yeah, Moo and Nine, both of those candidates potentially. Of course, Moo being that position 1 for that team. So definitely some names to think about. But like you said, holding tryouts, so maybe they will be able to find somebody that we aren't as familiar with. I mean, they kind of already have that in Tanner as their mid player currently. That we're still trying to figure out what he can bring to the table. So who knows there? But NiP, that'll be one of the fun storylines to follow going into the next cycle. Of course, after the major wraps up. And I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I assume the qualifiers for the next cycle is going to start pretty quickly, as it usually does. Maybe a week or so break, but we'll find out.
Probably don't have too long.
No.
Like you said, it is probably going to be in the next 2 weeks or so. So
yeah,
got to make it happen. That's the grind of the Dota region, or of the Dota season. And the fact that they're back in EU seems a little bit scary for qualifications, but their argument for that was that we clearly haven't been giving the performance we need, and we don't care nearly as much about going to the events as we do getting better. So they're clearly invested towards hitting like the 4th, 5th cycle and potentially TI by moving back to EU. Just because, yeah, it's harder to qualify, but man, the competition there is just so much better. So
yeah,
if you want to push yourself to be better, you got to play against the best.
Absolutely. All right. Well, the one other thing to bring up was it was announced today. ESL 1 Birmingham was announced once again. It's, I want to say, the 3rd time they've been doing it here. Of course, ESL 1, always top-tier production, so with their events. And it's not a DPC event, but it is going to be happening in May timeframe. And certainly looking forward to seeing some top-tier teams there, as it usually tends to be. And like I said, some quality production as well. And, you know, a region, specifically that country, the UK, it's not really a country known for producing a lot of Dota 2 players necessarily, to be frank. But it seems like they get a crowd, though, to say the least. And there are certainly fans there that do exist. So fun announcement there to be had, but figured why not mention that before we look to wrap things up here on the show. So any further on that?
I just think it's important that tournaments like this keep happening for the Dota scene. I think big tournaments and exciting ones for the fans, and like a specific region that doesn't otherwise have Dota. I think it's really important to keep these things going. So it's good to see that another ESL 1 Birmingham's coming out, and I think it also allows teams to show or like to try a bit of other stuff other than like what they are completely confident in. So I look forward to seeing that when it comes out, obviously.
A little bit here, but we got the major. Continues tomorrow, depending on when you listen to this show. Point is throughout this week into the weekend, of course, we'll find out who the Cycle 2 major champion is here for Dream League. But I think that pretty much does it, though, for the show, for our next for our episode here of the Wombo Combo. So once again, I ask BSJ, anything else in general before we go?
Nah, man, I'm just gonna go back to losing some pub. I mean, winning some pubs.
Of course.
So that's the grind that I'm on, and I the one thing is I've been queuing EU, and it's been super fun to play because all the players are at Dream League right now.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I love about big LANs, if they're ever within reach of me, is that you get to play against all the people at once. I think that's the one thing I really missed about TI last year, was it being in China. Was all the other years I just played against all the best players coming to NA literally in one region. So
that's pretty cool.
I'm going to be enjoying that. And that's a part of the major for me that's actually super fun and something most people don't think about.
Well, next major is going to be ESL, right? And that's Los Angeles. So
exactly. I'm double dipping, baby. 2 in a row.
That's going to be a good time.
US West servers back.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, have fun in your NA pubs as the night goes on here in the tiny airlines to come.
Thank you.
But shout out to you guys for tuning in as always. Another episode of the Wombo Combo podcast coming to a conclusion. Enjoy the major, guys. It's going to be fun, I'm sure. A great finish. We'll see who the champion is and discuss that champion come next week. Until then, have a good night, guys. We'll see you next time.